States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So as you can see, we have a lot of young people in the audience, and we want to allow Dr. Williams to introduce the principal of this fine school.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. This is a great evening. Okay, all right. I like that energy. It's just my pleasure. I always love coming to School 50 because when I think about what a community school is, this school really embodies what a community school is. The community is very involved in this school, and this principal is so committed and so involved in the community. I got to tell a story. She knows I tell it everywhere I go. You know, my grandson was playing t-ball at Shoshone Park, and I hear somebody saying, you know, Dr. Williams, and, you know, I'm looking like a grandparent at a baseball practice with her grandson, not like Dr. Williams. So I'm wondering, who is this person? And it was Miss Graves, because her children, or her son, was playing t-ball also, and everybody there knew who she was, and she's just a wonderful principal. This is, you know, my first opportunity to be in the new section of the school. How exciting. She led all of that, and so it's my pleasure to bring up the principal of this wonderful school, Miss Carla Graves.
A little tall for me. Good evening, esteemed board members, Superintendent Williams, cabinet members, families, and community members. I am Carla Graves, and I have the privilege of serving. This is our 6th year open as School 50 as the principal. I am also a proud parent of 2 North Park 50 students, 2nd and 4th grade. And they're actually back here for the demonstration today. I would first like to thank our board members and our superintendent for allowing us to host this December board meeting. It is an honor. At North Park, we provide STEAM to all students in various capacities. STEAM has really ignited our students' imagination, and it has engaged them in a productive struggle. The students visit the STEAM lab to participate in hands-on learning and work with their peers to problem solve. We're really thankful with the addition of WAZ that we're really able to enhance this program. So what we are going to demonstrate for you today is going to be led with our STEAM/tech coach, Mrs. Tui, and our librarian, Michael Geyer, who are helping to facilitate our young scholars that they've already been working on these activities in the STEAM lab. So now I will have Mrs. Tui and Mr. Geyer provide you with the next steps of our program.
Hello, everyone. I'm Molly Tui. I was privileged enough to be brought on by Ms. Graves last year, and I've been able to expand upon their already wonderful STEAM program, and we've been getting kids into movie production starting in kindergarten as a way to articulate their explanation of learning. That will lend itself into older grades where they have to write it. We do a lot of robotics work with problem solving, and I just find this is a great way to tap into those alternative learners. Not all of us were maybe 100 average students, such as myself, but it really taps into those different learning types and those multi-modalities of student learning. So I am privileged enough to let the students do most of the showing, and we have a group that will be doing a drone demonstration. We have a group that is in the middle of their movie production right now with Legos that they've built. We have 2nd graders that will be doing a Sphero Lego race. So they will be racing robots with something they've built with Legos. And we have some 3rd and 4th graders that will be demonstrating the 3D design program of Tinkercad in various problem solving. So please circulate, help yourself to one of these postcards that will also explain what they're doing if you scan the QR code. Our drones are courtesy of WAZ. So So you will be able to see some of that in action, but some of the other stuff is just side projects. So please circulate, ask questions. The students are ready to tell, and you may even be privileged enough to try it out. They kind of want to test and teach you to do the skills as well. So don't be scared. Try and fly a drone. Okay? So I'm going to ask the board members if you'd want to travel with this. You don't have to because the description is at the table. But this is more if you want to take it with you later and interact with the kids, ask them what they're doing. And again, be daring. Try and drive a drone or a robot. Go right ahead.
How much time do we have?
You have about 15 minutes, sorry. 15 minutes, this will be going on and just circulate with the kids.
All right.
Yep, they're in the back. I am also a parent, so you can see one of mine back there as well.
All right.
You know who she is. It's your girl. Yes, okay. So yeah, help yourself back there. You know she's been anticipating you. Oh, but this is Dr. Williams again. I know. Dominating. Let the kids see some work too.
The kids did a wonderful job. Let's give them a hand. Thank you, teachers, for leading the impressive group of young people. So now we will have Dr. Williams do a couple of introductions.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Evans Brown. That was so much fun, and that's what learning should be about. We're able to explain in very higher order terms exactly what they were doing. Very impressive. Very impressive. I think we all enjoyed and we all had a good time with the students and learning about what they're doing. And I just want to give a shout out to Ms. Walker, who is overseeing our WASED initiative. She should feel really good tonight about seeing it in action, seeing the practice of all that she's been doing behind the scenes to move it forward. At this time, I'm going to ask our Chief of Operations, Mr. David Hills, to come up, and he would like to make an introduction of one of his architects.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, esteemed board members. Before I start, I would like to introduce Joe DePerna, who is one of our senior architects in the Division of Planning. And Joe was recently hired by Buffalo Public Schools. He actually was a part of the team that worked on this design. In 2019, Paul McDonald, Juan Perez, our Executive Director of Plants, and our Director of Facilities started the work on this project with Steigetz Snyder Architecture, which became Labella Architecture, which are heavily involved in the stadium project now. Joe DePerna was part of the design team, and he became the project manager of this project. And he then, and Juan Perez was on our side, our former executive director, and we had this building addition that was going to be added to create this community school space. So Joe and Labella and our team, they had to come up with a design that complemented the neighborhood, that created this wide open space to allow for more pre-K classrooms, more early childhood education. I just want us to think of what we were able to do in this large cafeteria and how this opens with this fenestration onto a historic neighborhood that is welcomed into the school, and it creates this environment for an elementary open community school environment. It was pretty good architect talk, wasn't it? And so we have a new main entrance, new main office suite, the cafeteria, community space, 4 pre-K and kindergarten classrooms, full kitchen, which is fantastic, and a new playground. And the spirit of play that's in these porthole windows, in the design, the cement lily pads aren't there back by the main entrance. All of that spirit of play was incorporated into the elementary design to make it state-of-the-art and historically relevant to the neighborhood. And the final environment is really playful, appropriate, good for education. So we are just impressed with the work. We're glad that we were able to swipe from one of the good guys on the other side to come to be one of the good guys on our side. Joe, thank you so much for joining us. And he's been doing fantastic work with us. And a project like this, we did this through COVID, through supply chain delays, and if anyone knew how long it took to get just national grid hookups to an antiquated infrastructure system to support this new facility or this improved facility. There were a lot of challenges, and we worked through them, and we're just so glad that we have this space, and we hope that every space in the Buffalo Public Schools will slowly but surely, over challenges, will rise to that standard. So thank you, and thank you, everyone. Joe? I think I promised Joe he wouldn't have to say anything.
Just thank you, and I'm happy to be on board with Buffalo Public Schools.
That said it all. Thank you so much, Joe. We are very lucky to have you on board with us. This looks magnificent. I'm looking at the little circles and the way that everything, is intentional. We come into a school like this and we see it, and it looks nice, but we don't really know the behind the scenes and all that it took to get to this point. So thank you so much. I'm glad that you're a part of our team. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Carestes to come forward and to share some information about someone that I have known for a long time. We go way back, and so it's bittersweet. Tonight is bittersweet for me, but I'll turn things over to Dr. Carestes.
All right, good evening, Superintendent Board members and members of the public and my colleagues on the BPS staff. Tonight, we are witnessing retirement claim another one of our irreplaceable employees. Iris Malpica Lopez has distinguished herself throughout her entire career in our school district, and most recently for the last several years as board secretary. So she has met the needs of the board and the public in that very important role, along with her colleague, Lisa Kane. So we have a little token of appreciation as we're very happy and very proud for you, but it's kind of a sad night for us, Iris. The Buffalo Board of Education commends and thanks you for 22 years of distinguished excellence in service to the students, staff, and community of the Buffalo Public Schools. We wish you happiness today and beyond in your retirement. Congratulations, Iris. This is heavy. Let's put it here. I don't want it to drop.
Oh, it's heavy. It's beautiful. Yes. Kim, can you get everyone in?
And then one more. Lisa, let's get in this one with Iris. You guys don't mind?
This team.
You want to say something? Okay.
I'd like to thank everyone that I've worked with in Buffalo, with the Buffalo Public Schools. I've known Dr. Williams since I began here. I know many, many other people, and I'd also like to thank my close colleagues and other people that I've worked with at School 18. I also worked at Student Support Services. I also worked in attendance. I've worked basically everywhere. So, and I'm very appreciative that I've had wonderful supervisors, wonderful bosses. I couldn't have asked for a better career, and I'd like to thank everyone. Thanks.
We will surely miss you. I've known Iris for a long time, and in every department that she has worked in, she has just done exemplary work. She's a hard worker. She's very committed and dedicated to the Buffalo Public Schools. I've watched her children behind the scenes grow up, and I'm just, I'm happy for you, sad for us. But, at our last board meeting, I think we talked about how once you're a part of the BPS family, you never really leave. So I expect that I'll still see you around. Summer school teaching? Oh, substitute teaching. Yes, we need substitute teachers. Please get your application in because we need substitute teachers. So thank you for all of your service and all that you have done over the years for our children and families. Thank you.
Yes, Iris will be missed. Okay, so next we will have our speakers. At this time, the board welcomes speakers who have signed up to speak at tonight's meeting. Please be reminded that all speakers' remarks must be limited to 3 minutes or less. We ask that speakers be mindful that this is a business meeting, open to the public and televised locally. Attendees and viewers include persons from throughout Western New York, including children. The board asks that speakers professionally and that their comments remain civil and courteous, bearing in mind that they will be heard by people of all ages. This is an opportunity for Buffalo's residents to address the Board of Education about issues that serve the public interest and district mission. And the board asks that speakers demonstrate appropriate decorum. So first, on this list is Selena Irene, Native American Parent Student Committee regarding Native American Resource Program job posting. Is she here? All right, next. We have Maureen McNamara, UTAG, school counselor regarding keeping school counselors in the budget. Hello.
Hi. My name is Maureen McNamara UTAG, and I have been a school counselor in this district for over 12 years. This is not my first time speaking to the board. As a matter of fact, over the course of my 12 years in the district, I believe I have spoken on 3 prior occasions. On those prior occasions, I was begging, pleading for the district to hire more school counselors in every building. I was very grateful when, as a result of me speaking to the board, Dr. Williams, who I believe was the superintendent of student supports at the time, created a focus group to explore the needs for more school counselors. But then COVID hit. When our district received the ARP ESSER funds and was looking for community input on how to spend the money received, I again spoke at one of those meetings requesting more school counselors. Even though I initially was under the impression that those funds would not be used for staffing, I was delighted to see that over 40 new school counselors were hired to address students' social and emotional challenges. It seems like we were finally able to start putting research-based practices in place, only to find out now that those same positions are being threatened to be cut. So now I'm back begging, pleading to you, the board, to you, the superintendent, and to the district leaders, and to the community, please don't cut our school counselors. Prior to having the ARP ESSER funds, principals in our K-8 buildings were given school counselor allocations based on the number of 7th and 8th grade students in the buildings. Most schools only had a half-time, or what the district would call a 0.5, school counselor on their school-based budgets. Principals had to buy a half-time school counselor with their other funds to actually staff at least one full-time school counselor in a building. As we know, many principals did not. Schools operated with a half-time school counselor or a school counselor every other day. Operating like this was tragic. Students' social and emotional needs were not being met. When the district got the ARP or ESSER funds, the cry from the community was loud and clear. Our students needed more social and emotional support. The district listened. Elementary principals were given a school-based budget that finally included at least a full-time school counselor in every elementary building. Many of our larger schools have had 2 to 3 school counselors in the last 2 years. This is so student-focused, what we've been begging for. Finally, we can start systematically addressing the needs of our students. It would be a huge disservice to our students and to the community if school counselors were not funded adequately in subsequent years. We, the school counselors, are urging this board, the district leaders, and the financial officers to keep our school counselors. There should never again be a halftime school in any. Should there be one school counselor for 800 students like I have for years? Thank you.
Oh. Rebecca Rogers, she's also a school counselor.
And I'm a school counselor at American Magnet, School 19. I started as a school counselor in the district in 2021. As a community provider at Lorraine, School 72, through Closing the Gap. My husband has worked at South Park High School since 2016 district. Like all of you here at this meeting or listening from home, I am here because I care deeply for those of you who may not know, school counselors are certified educators who improve student success for all students by implementing a data-informed school counseling program. School counselors help all students apply academic achievement strategies, manage emotions, and apply interpersonal skills, and plan for post-secondary options. In the last year alone, school counselors throughout this district delivered over 3,300 classroom presentations or lessons, and nearly 2,400 restorative conferences and circles. And the future is bright for Buffalo Public School graduates, with nearly 70% of graduates pursuing 2- or 4-year college degrees, and over 20% of our graduates entering the workforce or a trade or certificate program. These statistics start to paint a picture of the impact school counselors have on our Buffalo Public School students, and that's just 1 year. Additionally, research tells us that students of color and students from low-income families benefit from having more access to. For example, Black students are more likely than their white peers to identify their school counselor as the person who had the most influence on their thinking about post-secondary education. And research links the student-to-school counselor ratios that meet the American School Counselor Association recommendation in high-poverty schools to better academic outcomes for students, such as improved attendance, fewer disciplinary incidences, and higher graduation rates. Like my colleague, Ms. Utag, shared, we have more school counselors in our district than ever before. While we and our student support colleagues remain stretched and challenged by the high needs of our students, we are well equipped to do this work. In addition to the specialized training we receive in our master's programs, Buffalo Public School counselors are being trained by the American School Counselor Association to implement data-informed school counseling programs in our schools. Comprehensive school counseling programs result in improved student achievement, attendance, and discipline. Keeping full-time school counselors in all of our buildings will ensure that the future of our students remains bright. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you. Next, we have E. Meg Williams, also a school counselor. I love school counselors.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Elizabeth Meg Williams. I am a licensed mental health counselor and a school counselor at the Buffalo Elementary School of Technology, PS6. I believe in a community approach to mental health, to holistic health, well-being. It takes a village, not just to raise a child, but to empower every individual to be a productive and successful member of society. This is why 2 years ago, I applied to become a Buffalo Public School counselor. It has been an honor and a privilege to work in this position. I am here today to ask counselors in elementary school budgets. Our roles are just as important as social workers, psychologists, and other members of the student support team. I was hired as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and I applied because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Working from home during the early lockdown phase, I saw my neighbor kids doing the best they could with the resources they had, and they were struggling. Some didn't have internet access. Others had device issues and no transportation to take and get it fixed. They were hungry and stressed out, trying to go to school in tiny apartments with multiple siblings. Their parents, many of whom do not speak English fluently, were unable to figure out how to help them. At first, I invited them into my home to work. I contacted teachers, drove them to meetings, fixed their devices. I quickly realized that if I really wanted my neighbor kids to succeed, to foster growth in my community, I needed to learn the BPS system: high school applications, state testing, school choice. I needed to understand the issues they were having with busing and technology and language access. When I say it is an honor and a privilege to be a Buffalo Public School counselor, that is not hyperbole. I have had the honor of working in schools that my neighbor kids attend, and the privilege of becoming an integral part of the lives of hundreds of school kids I've met along the way. Having worked primarily with older system-involved youth in my previous career, I have a unique perspective on my role now as an elementary school counselor. I believe wholeheartedly that this is where the difference is made. Every child deserves a champion and an advocate. When students are able to access their education with barriers removed, they soar. We remove those barriers, school counselors. My day-to-day is insanely busy. Our students have high needs, but we are trained and skilled and up to the challenge. I am incredibly lucky to be full-time this year at School 6, a school with a high percentage of E&L students, many of whom are brand new arrivals to this country. I have the opportunity to make their first experience in an American school a positive one, and I don't take this lightly. To think that my students only had a part-time counselor before the COVID-19 pandemic makes me very sad and concerned. I see how high they can soar with just a little help, with a person in their corner, with someone that believes in them and is willing to do whatever it takes to help them navigate the educational system. Please find a way to let us continue to do the incredible work we've done in the last 2 years.
Thank you. Next, we have Jessica Gilbert Overland, concerned citizen, coalition representative, gratitude for the work of Bridget O. Woods.
Good evening, Superintendent, board members, public. Great to be here with you. I'm Jessica Gilbert Overland. I am the campaign director for the Good Food Buffalo Coalition, and I'm here to extend our gratitude to Bridget O'Brien Wood for her over 30 years of dedicated work as the Director of Child Nutrition Services and her work supporting the nutritional growth of our students and bringing more local quality food to Buffalo Public Schools. The Good Food Buffalo Coalition has partnered with Bridget and the Department of Child Nutrition Services since 2017, so for several years at this point. And we have engaged with her on her work around her nationally renowned Farm to School program and continuing to build upon that work. You have a letter in front of you in which I am referencing all the gratitude that we are expressing and some of the other information that I'd like you to just note when you have a second. And so with this work with Bridget, we have been able to build upon the Farm to School program to start thinking about values-based food procurement as well, recognizing that there's more to food than just purchasing local, as important as local food is. And so in recognizing also that our taxpayer dollars are used to buy certain types of foods, and we would love that food to be purchased in line with all of our values as a public. The Good Food Buffalo Coalition consists of a diverse coalition representing over 30 different organizations across Buffalo and Western New York. And we are working to bring the Good Food Purchasing Program to Buffalo Public Schools. This program highlights 5 core values. That includes local economies, health, a valued workforce, animal welfare, and environmental sustainability. In addition, our coalition brings racial equity and transparency as our coalition-centered values. Working with Bridget, we've been able to collaborate with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, a national partner, to conduct a baseline assessment of the Buffalo Public Schools' current food procurement data and learn where there's opportunities for us to build upon in our food procurement. We've used data to inform certain RFPs, requests for proposals, that Buffalo Public Schools importance of healthy, values-based food and the importance of these other values into our food supply chain. We are really excited as well to work with Connor Movement. Wanted to acknowledge We look forward to working with you as well as we move forward to improve the food that our students are eating and to keep building upon these exciting programs.
Thank you. Okay, next one. Vento. Here. Concern set. She's not here either. Linda Moore. Joanne Carroll. Christopher Howe. Neil Lane. I'm here. All right, Neil. Neil is the alumni president of Bennett Alumni Moving Middle Early College.
That I am. Just Bennett High School, Bennett Alumni Association. I'm talking about lots of other things. So I'm Neil Lang, president of the Bennett Alumni Association. First and foremost, let me thank our superintendent, Dr. Tanja Williams, for personally meeting with us last week and committing to developing stronger lines of communications with our board. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. As we continue to work as community partners in facilitating the middle early college move, Dr. Williams has committed to strengthening communication with point people in the district, pledging regular meetings with 2 top district officials, which will make our collaborative work moving dedicated location and expanding our highly successful innovative technology program more transparent. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't say it enough. So now some highlights of what our alumni are doing. This past Monday had to be the best event that the alumni ever did. We did a holiday bazaar. Our alumni and staff members gathered gifts for students. We were able to provide 4 shopping experiences for all our 9th graders and all of our students with disabilities. They went shopping, they came in, I gotta tell you, the best behaved students that I've ever seen. And I taught in Buffalo for 35 years. These young people were given a lesson by Linda Shinta and talked about the aspects of giving. They noodled with me in their shop. We helped them wrap their. I gotta tell you, I couldn't be more pleased with what took place. And I have to shout out Tara Mai from our board, who guaranteed that we had all new gifts. We didn't go to the secondhand store. She got donations, and the teachers donated brand new gifts these students were able to give to their friends and families. Right before Thanksgiving, we did a Basket of Love campaign. We raised over $2,000. We were able to give gift cards to Aldi's for those families that were not going to have food. Last year, our alumni board was able to give almost $40,000 to the students, to the teachers, to the administration of Bennett High School. Yes, you heard, $40,000. This past September, we held a gala for our endowment fund founder circles. To date, we have raised over $100,000 for an endowment fund exclusively for the use of Bennett High School. May I continue? Good. I just want to tell you all the good things we did. We did a Sports Hall of Fame on October 7th. We inducted 7 new athletes. We were able to go to West Hereford, and they gave us $2,500 to champion the cause of the Sports Hall of Fame. In June, we held our all-class reunion and honor roll induction ceremony. We added 7 new members to our honor roll, and over 100 alumni renewed their commitments to support Bennett High School. Additionally, our floundering College Success Center has been revitalized. Yes, Dr. Williams is up and operating. Maureen England and other members of our alumni board worked diligently to establish that room. And I don't know where Dr. Crestis is, but he helped us get all of that material in there. We are now operating a successful College Success Center for our students at Bennett High School. Our board is busy. We meet regularly with our building administrators, district Buffalo board staff, school committees, and our own committees. And I'm glad that I can assure every one of you and everybody associated with Bennett that the alumni, when we made a commitment back in February of 2014, when we saved the school, we pledged we would never allow Bennett to decline again. And I guarantee you, we will continue to work tirelessly to keep that commitment. We are going to have a very successful Bennett forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, so next we have Deborah Hahn. She's not here either. Anna Kleiman. I hope I pronounced that right.
Esteemed board members, Dr. Williams, cabinet members, BPS colleagues, community members, parents. My name is Anna Kleiman, and I have had the privilege to serve Buffalo Public Schools students and families since 1996. First as an elementary school counselor, and for the past almost 5 years as a school counselor coordinator. Before I go any further, I want to make two quick but important points. Point number one, I have worked, and I had the honor of working with many of you closely, and I know that this board and this superintendent are very student-focused. And I do know that you do not need convincing that social emotional health and overall wellness are the foundation of the student school success. Point number two, and I need to make this point because I feel absolutely blessed to work for Buffalo Public School Student Support Services Division, and specifically for the Department of Guidance and Counseling Services, because this is an absolutely amazing team to work with, and I'm fortunate to work alongside most incredible, passionate people who are working tirelessly together to improve what we do for our students and families, and to eliminate that opportunity and achievement gap by providing excellent and equitable student outcomes for all. Student counselors who spoke before me are true student advocates, and they go above and beyond to help students succeed. And I can attest here for you that the only reason they came here to speak is because they have one goal in mind: what is best for our students. Doing what's best for our students is something that's constantly on my mind as well. I have to talk to my husband. Actually, he has told me on a couple of occasions that he woke up in the middle of the night because I was advocating for the best of our students. How crazy am I? But that's what school counselors are. Someone is not going to be getting what they need from us. We have that mind going on at night, worrying about what's going to happen to them. Where are they now? Of course, I wish I had more than 3 minutes to share with you what our department has done with APR funds. We went from 78 to 113 school counselors. We have had invested tremendous time, funds, and brainpower into providing many hours of professional development, individualized school supports, collaborating with a number of departments to ensure our school counselors, can I continue? Effectively and efficiently provide students with what they need at every developmental level. We cannot lose momentum. We simply owe it to our students. Students will not succeed academically if they do not see a personal relevance or purpose to their learning. They will not start caring about their academic success if they do not have strong school connections. Prioritizing prevention and policies and funding will systematically address the unrelenting rise of students' mental health issues and needs. This is why we cannot lose a single school counselor position. We cannot afford to go back to random acts of school counseling because systematic intervention is simply humanly impossible due to overwhelming caseloads. which students can we sacrifice? Who is not valuable enough? I hope and pray the answer is each and every BPS student is important. Each and every BPS student deserves to achieve post-secondary success, and that means each and every BPS student must have access to certified school counselor.
Thank you so much. That's why I love school counselors. They're so passionate. Next, we have Deshaun Baldwin, concerned citizen. On school suspicions. Okay, Deshaun's not here. Okay, Dr. Chris Brown, teacher, concerned citizen regarding behavioral modification. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
It's good to see you this evening, Madam Superintendent, fellow board members. Dr. Kurtz, I haven't seen you since School 80 when my son was in your office all the time. Yeah, he was a good student. That's the only office that the man ever had that had no chairs in it. So you had to stand. My name is Chris Brown, Dr. Chris Brown. I am a Buffalo Board of Education graduate from Bennett High School. I didn't get a bill yet, and I didn't know about it. Okay, all right. 30 years I have worked with students in the community, in schools, in church, playgrounds, everywhere around this city. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice, a master's in theology, a master's in mental health counseling, a doctorate in strategic leadership. This is in spite of the fact that in 3rd grade I was diagnosed as mentally retarded by the Board of Education, and I spent 6 years in a 6-1-1 class. So it goes to the power of God what he can do to take this rump, get a doctorate degree. Currently, I am a teacher in the Buffalo school system, and I have been off and on for the past 5 years. And over that time, I have seen the level of violence increase dramatically. It is getting now to an epidemic proportion. I did not start just now working with kids. I've been doing it for 30, 35 years with men like Kevin White, Lionel Williams, Mickey Cruz, and Mr. Charles Williams, who was the late husband of Dr. Williams. And many nights he came home late because he was with us at the playground with these kids, trying to reach them. Back in 1989, we were doing this. I had hair back then, too. So it was really good. The root cause of violence is not just one that's economic or financial. It is also emotional, is what it is. We have to understand that we have to know that this is a mental health issue right now. There are major causes of school violence, and I have been afforded the opportunity to firsthand observe children in every school in this district I have been in. And I have seen 4 primary DSM-5 mental health concerns. The first one is disruptive mood disorder, characterized by frequent outbursts. May I continue, please? Frequent outbursts, and it lasts for a period no more than 3 months or 1 year. And this starts between age 6 to 18 years of age. Then we have intermediate explosive disorder, characterized by discrete episodes of failure to restrain aggressive impulse, resulting in serious assault and destruction of property. This is ignited by a physical or psychological provocation. Then we have oppositional defiant disorder, characterized by repeated defiant, vindictive behavior for at least 6 months. These children are primarily raised in a single mother household with siblings who have a variety of different fathers of origin and who do not have a regular rule in the house. The rules are very inconsistent. One day it's okay to do something, the next day it's not okay to do something, and corporal punishment is used indiscriminately when the parent is depressed, frustrated, or angry. And they bring that behavior to the school. We have no idea what these kids are going through at home. They come to school with a lot of emotional baggage, and you wonder why they're so angry. I have been punched in the face by breaking up a fight in school. I've been threatened by a student in school, but I still go back the next day. Many of our teachers need help emotionally as well. They are afraid for their lives some days. These children, many of them, have issues that are not really Board of Education problems. They are family of origin problems. And we have to start holding these parents accountable for their kids' behavior. It's just unacceptable. This is a homicide waiting to happen. I'm not telling you when somebody, if somebody gets killed in one of these schools, I'm telling you on December 20th, 2023, at this time, it is going to happen. When these kids go after each other, their adrenaline is so high, it took me and 4 other teachers to pull one kid off of a kid. That's how strong their adrenaline is when they're going through these episodes. I have a program that I presented to the board in 2011, which you funded. It was a mental health summer camp, and we reached 18 kids who were suffering from anxiety, depression, trauma, all kind of programs. That program was successful. We had 18 kids and families which were reached. We referred them to psychiatrists for medication therapy and psychologists for ongoing therapy. A lot of the problems that these kids have cannot be solved with a social worker or with school staff. They're not trained for that. I will be a licensed mental health therapist in February. I've worked in the Buffalo Psych Center. I worked in the Children's Psych Center. I worked in Baker Hall. I worked in Gateway. I worked in the Detention Center. I worked in the Holding Center. I've worked in every facet in this city when it comes to children and families, and I know what I'm talking about.
Dr. Brown, you certainly sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
But you need to wrap it up for
Okay.
consideration.
I just want to thank you. I get kind of wrapped up sometimes. Just let me calm down. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and time. And I have a packet for the superintendent and one for the secretary to have as well for you to peruse and see the program that I'm offering to help with this problem. Thank you.
Thank you so
God bless.
much. Okay, next we have Melina Fisher, a parent. Diversity and inclusivity. Ms. Fisher.
Good evening. My name is Melina Fisher. I'm here to talk about the School 17 project on inclusivity. I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to view the video. If not, Dr. Karestas should have sent it to you guys, so please do take a chance to view it. At a recent DPCC meeting, Chief Amos came and spoke about the district's initiatives on diversity and inclusivity. So I, as a parent, as my DPCC rep, wanted to bring that back to my school. And how could we make the children in our school feel included? And how could we celebrate the diversity that makes us all beautiful? And knowing that Buffalo City School District represents more than 50 countries and 82 different languages are spoken by the students within this school district. So I took what I teach my children. People are made like flowers. We're all different, but we're all beautiful. So what we did is we built the Garden of BPS. And what we had was children write in the petals of the flower what made them special and what made them them. And then we had the teachers talk about that and have a circle time with them where the children were able to talk about what made them beautiful and the differences. Because I feel like when people are scared of the differences, that's where we get anger and unfounded hatred. So when we take the time to celebrate each other and learn about each other and learn about each other's different cultures, especially in a district that has such an eclectic student body, it was really important that we celebrate that. So I'm really, really proud of what 17 did. And, if you do get a chance, please go to 17 and actually see it in person. It is a beautiful wall. They spent a lot of time on it, and Mrs. Valenti and Mrs. Frazier and Mrs. Washington and the administration, Mrs. Berry and Mrs. Caccini, they really, really try to include all their students and make them feel loved and special. So thank you.
Next we have Ed Spidell, and as he's come, Ms. Fisher, your PowerPoint presentation was wonderful. I did view it before the meeting. So yeah, it was really cool. Ed?
Thank you. I'll take this time to congratulate Iris. Every month for the last 3 years, I've called into the Board of Education office to talk, and she's like, Mr. Spidell, what's your subject this month? She's expecting my call. She's always pleasant and friendly, and she's going to be missed. I'm not going to talk about special ed tonight. I want to talk about reflection. We're going into the holiday season, and I want to wish everybody happy holidays. I would like everybody in the district to reflect on what we have accomplished in the first few months of the school, and to think about what we need to do in the rest of the school year so our kids can get to the point they need to get to, whether it's reading or math or homework or sports, whatever we can do to support our children. I'm just asking everybody to take the time and to do that, and thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. And that's a good message to parents in particular, because we are going to be in recession, and it is an opportunity to bond with your child, pick up some extra books, do some games, etc. Next, we have Felicia Thomas, a parent. Okay. And then lastly, Mark Lickfeld, a parent. All right, so that wraps up these 20-something speakers tonight. Dr. Williams, your
Thank you so
response.
much, Dr. Evans-Brown. Normally, I will go through and respond to every single speaker, but tonight there was kind of a common thread that was attached to all of the speakers that came forward. And there were messages that talked about all of the good things, or some of the good things that are happening in the school district and with our alumni association, and keeping those things going. If they are impacting children, and it is showing an impact on children, you know, we are in a difficult time, and I need to acknowledge that. We are in a difficult time as far as everyone knows that our BESSER was sent to us for a 3-year period. And, you know, we'll have to strategically and look at priorities, look at data. So I appreciate the school counselors coming out and sharing so passionately, you know, all that you do, going above and beyond for children. And, you know, I appreciate Mr. President Lang coming out and talking about the good things happening at Bennett High School and the need for middle early to kind of have their own space too. So the common thread to me was really on wellness, whether it's the physical, logistical space, if it's the social, emotional well-being for our children. I appreciate our pastor, Dr. Brown, so eloquently and passionately talking about the experiences that he has had in our schools. There are lots of needs. One of the things that myself, this board, and this cabinet, and our district is committed to is moving to the next level. We talk about it all the time. We've put it out, you know, on posters and our, you know, at the signature line on our emails, moving to the next level. And to me, that indicates that we don't go backwards. We don't go backwards. So we've got a lot of work to do, you know, within the district, with our community, with our staff over these next several months, because, everything right now is a priority, but I've been very open since I sat in this seat as the interim the first night, and I said that safety and security, and safety to me is not just physical safety, although I'm talking about that too, the emotional safety, the logistical safety, all of those things are important to me. So we'll be doing some hard work over the next few months, and I know that you were heard tonight. You know the school counselors are a group that are very, very close to my heart. I was a school counselor for 10 years, and I know the folks that came forward, most of you, and I've known you over the years and the hard work that you do, and I appreciate it. And to our DPCC president, I appreciate that message. We had a meeting yesterday. I think it was a great meeting, and I think we all ended on a note that was very similar to that, we're going to be taking a little time over the next week, and it is time to rest, rejuvenate, reset. We need our parents. We need for our parents to be working with their children. I'll be sending some messages out. We did a radio show where we spoke to parents about some of the things that they can do over the break to keep, their children safe and well, and do some things that will also continue the learning. Certainly, we all appreciate all of the years that Bridget O'Brien Woods has committed to this district, so there's no argument there. We all appreciate her. She's been recognized by the state, by the governor, so we know that her work expands much further than Buffalo Public Schools, and so we want to continue her good work also. So with that being said, I'll turn things back over to Dr. Evans-Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I'm sure that the speakers appreciate your comments, as always. And it's back to now the student representative. Deja, you have an update for us? Okay, finish your candy. We'll give her a minute. Let her chew her candy.
Thank our speakers.
And thank all the speakers tonight. This was a very long list, and we got you in first. You didn't have to sit around a long time after what we normally do. So we made an intentional effort to make sure that you all got a chance to get your messages in and get a response from our superintendent. Deja, you ready?
Yep. So, in our inter-high meeting from this month, we had our first in-person meeting at Villa Maria College. We had a few things that we did. The first thing, we had a speaker come up and discuss addiction and to spread awareness in ways for us to know, like, the signs of someone who is addicted and, like, the problems that they deal with. We had watched a video where there was, like, around 3 to 4 people speaking on their addictions with heroin, cocaine, marijuana, LSD, anything of the sorts like that. And then she also showed us, like, contraptives to help people who are overdosing on heroin to, like, get them back up. I forgot what the device was called. But she did have the device to show us, and yeah, she spread awareness about that. Second thing, we had our tour and lunch. We just went to tour on Villa Maria College, which is a really nice campus. I really like it. It's very, like, together. You could tell that it's a really nice community and that it's very sweet and secluded. And lastly, we had a seminar. Also forgot his name. I'm so sorry for that. But we had a seminar, and he discussed that we need, well, in order to achieve more in life and to actually get more in life, you have to start taking risks and to be uncomfortable. And that was basically it.
Thank you, Deja.
Thank you.
Oh, she's just become a leader. Next, we have the superintendent's update.
Okay, so for the update this month, we have some important information, and, you know, I'm really excited. I get really excited when we start talking about data, especially when our data is moving in the right way, and it is. You know, we talk all the time about one voice, one vision, one mission, and about this district telling the truth, telling the narrative of how our children are doing. Do we still have a long ways to go? Of course. But you don't get to the top of a ladder by just jumping from ground level up to the top. You take one step at a time. And I think that our data will show that we are taking some steps, one at a time, and that we are moving forward. So I'm going to bring forward a team. Our Chief Academic Officer, Ann Botticelli, our Chief of Accountability and Information Officer, Dr. Ebony Prophet Bullock, and our Assistant Superintendent in the Office of Accountability, and she's also our Data Protection Officer, and she sure does protect that data. She protects it well, Mrs. Laura Samolsky-Peters. And they're going to give us a brief, it'll be an overview, but then we'll do a little bit of focus on grade 3, because that's the grade level that we've been focused on as far as the board's goals for me. Dr. Bullock?
Good evening, Dr. Williams, esteemed board members, our audience, and our listening public. So I want to say that we are really excited to present this data to you. Closer to the microphone? All right. Sorry, I have colleagues that are concerned about my health. I am immunocompromised, so I appreciate that. So we're very excited to present this data to you. I do want to say that the state continues to encourage us to not use this data, to compare ourselves to the state, other districts, or even schools within schools versus each other in our district. But we want to make sure that we're able to always celebrate our gains, because we have fantastic teachers and leaders and school counselors that do, in fact, prioritize the social, emotional, and academic well-being of our students. But we know that it's important to also identify areas of growth. So the flow of this is Laura and I will present the data, we'll walk you through the data, and then our great colleague Ann will talk to you about some of the interventions that we're doing. So Laura?
Can we go to the next slide, please? So as a very proud former BPS high school math teacher, we will start with math instead of ELA, as we don't usually do, but we will today. Right? So as you can see from the screen, our overall proficiency rates in math are up from last year, but also they're slightly above where we were pre-COVID, which is good news, because we know, yes, we know that break, that COVID was very difficult for our students. So to see that our overall results are just a little bit higher, but still higher than they were pre-pandemic, is incredible news. Next slide. So this slide is showing us the breakdown of grades 3 through 8 math on the state assessments. Grades 4, 6, and 7 exceeded pre-COVID levels. So again, we had 3 grade levels that have already surpassed where they were pre-pandemic. The other grade levels were still working, but in every grade level, we exceeded where we were last year. So that, again, is really positive news. It shows that we're moving in the right direction.
Say that one more time, please.
Every grade level exceeded where we were last year. So we did make some gains. I do want to point out on this slide that for 8th grade, we have many students in the district who are accelerated and do not take the 8th grade state assessment. Those students take the Algebra Regents assessment, and they are not included in this proficiency number because they don't take the 8th grade assessment. They only take the algebra assessment. Okay, next slide. So our students with different abilities, again, are just at where we were pre-pandemic, slightly below, but really made gains from last year and moving in the right direction as well. Our general education students, again, they slightly exceeded pre-pandemic levels and definitely made gains from last year. Next slide. In our English language learners, our English language learners exceeded both last year and their pre-pandemic proficiency level, so that's great news. And our non-English language learners also exceeded last year and pre-pandemic levels. So across the board, our students are really doing some hard work and they're really making some important gains. Next slide. So on this slide, we're showing our proficiency rates overall in math by race and ethnicity. You can see that our Asian subgroup, our African American subgroup, multiracial and white students have exceeded pre-pandemic levels. Our Native American subgroup and our Hispanic subgroup, although they did not exceed pre-pandemic levels, did make big gains over last year. So they are moving in the right direction. I do want to make a little note about our Native American population on this slide. As you can see, it's very small. It's showing 31 students. And the reason for that is we do have more Native students in our district than 31 in these grade levels. But if they identify as more than one race, if Native American is not the only race they identified with, then they get moved to the multiracial category. And I want to point out that there's big fluctuations in such a small subgroup. As a matter of fact, if they had gone below 30, the state wouldn't even calculate their data. So they're really close to the cutoff of being even too small of a subgroup to have their data calculated. And so often with that subgroup, it's hard, we see a lot of fluctuation because it's such a small number.
So I have the great pleasure of actually doing the comparison slide. So next slide. Even though I say we're not supposed to do it, but why not? I am a girl child raised with a bunch of brothers. I'm competitive. We like to compare. So I am happy to say that when we take all things together, we made a gain of about 6% for math, which is solid. That's something we can trust. That's something that we can rely on. I also love the fact that we beat out Rochester and Syracuse. Not only did we have a bigger gain, we also outscored them. Now, we are still chasing after New York City and Yonkers. We know that one of the things that we have to compete with when we talk about New York City and Yonkers as a whole, there's just a little more, they have a little more money. They have a little more resources. Yonkers, we know, is pretty affluent, and so we're always chasing them down. But as a whole, this is a solid gain that we can count on and build on more than anything. So again, we always feel it's important to knock some narratives back. Slow, steady gain is what we want. We don't want red flags. We don't want the state coming in saying, hey, let's take a look at that, those tests, right? So then we want to drill down on third grade. We know that that's a group of students that we are focusing on. So if you can go to the next slide. Now I want you to remember that these third graders are currently in fourth grade, okay? However, they had a smaller gain, a gain of about 1% in math, but we still outscored Rochester and Syracuse. Okay, so, and remember, Ann's gonna come, my colleague, Chief Botticelli is gonna come and talk to you about some of the things that we're doing to support this group. So even a small gain is worthy of celebrating. And so we're really proud of the work that we're doing to celebrate. This is obviously an area that we're looking at as a growth area for us. How can we bridge learning and support instruction for these groups of students, okay? And now we're gonna now walk you through the ELA data. Oh, Ann's gonna do a quick.
So I am going to spend a lot more time, I don't mean a lot, I'm going to spend a little more time at the end talking about some of our interventions, but I just want to chime in a little bit here. So always remember that these third graders, our current fourth graders, there is a lot of work to be done. They were in kindergarten when we went out in 2020. So we recognize that this particular group of students really needs our support. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about a few highlights. We know how important fluency is in mathematics. You always hear me talk about it for reading because you need to be a fluent reader and a fluent writer in order to be successful with your comprehension skills, but you also need to be fluent in your mathematics skills. So one of the things that we've really been pushing with the schools is First in Math. And I think you've heard me talk about it a bunch of times, but it helps develop fluency for basic math facts and for more advanced math facts. So just a couple highlights. So they award stickers. When you get 3 questions correct, you earn a sticker. And right now, kindergarten at School 18 is ranked 7th in the state with 747 stickers on average per student. So remember, 1 sticker again is worth 3 correct questions that they have answered. Kindergarten at School 31 is actually ranked 8th in the state with 669 stickers on average per student. That's School 31. And first grade at School 65 is ranked 6th in the state with 1,929 stickers on average per student. In grade 1, School 64 is ranked 8th in the state, and School 18 is ranked 10th in the state at first grade. So we've got some teachers and students who have really grabbed on to First in Math, and they understand that building their fluency will support them when they take these state assessments down the line. So we keep working with schools, and our superintendent will be talking to families about First in Math and what we can do over break to stay fluent and keep practicing our math skills. I won't read you this entire chart, but I periodically check to see where schools have ranked in the state, and I will let you know, right now Olmsted is ranked number 24 in the entire state for their usage. Waterfront Elementary is ranked 29th. School 79 is ranked 36th. 18 is ranked 40th. School 45 is ranked 44th. School 80, Highgate Heights, is ranked 47th. And I could go on, but you have to understand that our schools really understand the importance of fluency, and the kids really like to practice this. So hopefully we will start to see the results in our iReady scores as well as our state assessment scores for math. And to end this little piece on another bright spot, my math team and my assistant superintendent for curriculum have really been going out and trying to target schools for support. So they're doing a lot of site visits, they're walking classrooms, they're having conversations with administrators, and they're talking about professional development that needs to happen, support that needs to happen in classrooms, and great things that they're seeing in classrooms. So just a few highlights. They mentioned Miss Hall at School 59. She is the building math teacher. And they said she has been doing phenomenal work with her students. They got to watch an RTI lesson the other day and couldn't stop talking about it. At School 74, Miss Mason, she is a kindergarten teacher there. They said it was a really terrific lesson. They were very excited when they walked out. And I know Principal Cook was also very happy. At School 37, I got to witness Miss Kennedy. It is seriously one of the best math lessons I've ever seen. She's a 4th grade teacher. Her kids were doing their work on the iPad so that she could check to make sure that they understood the math. She had them talking about the math. They were doing multiplication of 2-digit numbers using an area model. Every kid in that room was pretty much jumping out of their seat to give her answers. I've never seen that kind of excitement in a math classroom, so it got me a little excited too. Miss Jones in grade 6 at School 97, and Miss Syka at grade 6 in School 59, the team can't stop raving. So I'm very, very happy to tell you our teachers are attending professional development, they are working with coaches, they are working with administrators, and they are working with kids and doing a really great job.
Next slide, please. So now we're going to move on to ELA. So ELA, we have also exceeded our pre-pandemic proficiency level. So we went up 2 full percentage points since pre-pandemic. So that is very exciting for us. We have one slide out of order, so we're going to move to slide 13, and then we'll come back. Yes. No, go back. One more. One more. There it is. Okay, in the copy I have, it's out of order. I guess the copy that got printed is in order. Sorry.
Oh, it's 12.
It is. Okay.
For this chart, we are showing the proficiency rate by grade level. So we have every
Grade level, except for grade 6, exceeded their last year's proficiency level. And we have grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 have exceeded their pre-pandemic proficiency level. Next slide, please. So this slide is showing us our proficiency rates for students with different abilities. This one will be slide 10 in the packet, I believe. 9? Okay, mine, they're all different. Again, our students with different abilities exceeded their pre-pandemic proficiency level, and our general education students exceeded their pre-pandemic proficiency level. So that's exciting news. Next slide, please. For our English language learners, again, our English language learners exceeded our pre-pandemic proficiency level for ELA, as well as our non-English language learners. So we really have many, many students who were able to, again, start to close that gap and exceed our proficiency levels from our pre-pandemic. Next slide. When I look at the proficiency levels by race and ethnicity, all of our subgroups exceeded pre-pandemic levels except for Native American, Hispanic, and multiracial. All 3 of those groups did exceed last year's proficiency, but they still have a little ways to go to be above where we were pre-pandemic. And again, our Native American subgroup is very small, and it's for the same reason. And it's very close to almost not being where the state would record it, because when you get such small numbers, every child impacts the levels at a rate that makes the proficiency level a little unstable. But you can still see that gains were made with that subgroup. Next slide.
So what does this mean altogether? It means, once again, we beat Rochester and Syracuse. And we've made slight gains. We are still chasing down, I'm not sure that's the right one. We're still chasing down New York City and Yonkers, but you can see that New York City and Yonkers, they didn't make as large of gains as they did in math. So again, if you can, so this is overall, I'm sorry, I'm switching over to 3rd grade. So this is overall, we're still chasing down Syracuse, or Rochester, New York City, and Yonkers. And I think that we're doing such great work now to support students in reading and writing, and we're on an upward trend. We like to see the upward trends. We want it slow and steady and reliable. And I think that's where we're going. So if we can switch to the next slide, we can drill down on 3rd grade. You can see again that New York City and Yonkers actually did not have gains in their 3rd grade population. And we had slight gains. Rochester and Syracuse, they had a slightly percentage or 2 higher gain than us, but overall, we still outscored them. We have 26, almost 27% proficient to their 15 and about 17%. So again, the news is good. The news is we're upward moving. We're doing slow and steady. We know slow and steady wins the race,
And that's exactly what we're doing. We want to be reminded that the third graders were in kindergarten, right? In that COVID year where we were really struggling to get them, you know, the work that they needed, the support that they needed. And so we're going to continue to focus on those students to make sure that they get exactly what they need. And I think Ann has some highlights of prep.
So you're going to get really sick of hearing me talk about the science of reading and the Orton Gillingham training we've been doing. But I just want to mention that the data you're looking at was not truly impacted by that training or that implementation because we were still in the process of training teachers. This is actually the first year that our kindergarten and first grade students use it as a baseline. So there were some schools that were using it and they had started intervention, but this does not show the true impact that we expect to see down the line as kids are moving up through the grade levels and have that solid foundational skills base. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work we've done, but I just want to call out a few teachers that we've seen recently because they've been doing some phenomenal work in their classrooms. So my team told me I had to shout out Miss Evangelista at School 61. She's a kindergarten teacher, and she's doing a phenomenal job with OG. I just got to watch Miss Vision at 64, and let me tell you, if you get a chance, please go watch this woman teach. She is amazing. She's doing Orton Gillingham with her kids, and I've asked them to come videotape because it's so good. Miss Cudzillo at School 67, another kindergarten teacher, doing it with her whole class, doing a fantastic job. Miss Albert at School 69, grade 1, phenomenal. Miss Ippolito at School 95, kindergarten teacher, doing a phenomenal job across the board. We've got Miss Glagoza, who I mentioned last time. She's at School 72, and I caught her just as she had finished training, and it was like clockwork in her class. You're going to see big gains. We've got some special education teachers who are our team. So our special ed team has been going out to monitor and support OG implementation at schools. They had a huge shout out for Mr. Ash and Miss Jean Greco. They said they were doing phenomenal work with their students. And my reading team wanted me to make sure I mentioned Miss Andrews at School 97. She's a support reading teacher, likewise doing a phenomenal job with intervention. And of course, we have reading teachers across the district that are really working hard with that intervention piece at different grade levels, and I can't say enough about the work that the team is doing. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the PD we have in place to support teachers. If you could go to the next slide, please. So you've heard all this stuff before, but I have to say that this is what's going to make the difference in our scores. This is what's going to get our students to proficiency. So we have literacy coaches in our buildings that provide embedded professional development, support grade level meetings, work with DDI with the teachers. We've been doing the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling for several years. Our teachers in K-4 participate in that, as well as ENL teachers. You know that we've been doing Orton Gillingham training. Most of our kindergarten and first grade teachers are trained at this point. A lot of our special ed and ENL teachers at the elementary level are trained as well, and they are beginning to implement. And then our reading teachers, our coaches, et cetera. Morphology is sort of that part 2 to follow the Orton Gillingham. So Orton Gillingham makes sure that kids can do basic decoding, right? So they get that letter sound principle. But morphology is like the second step. So once you can decode basic words, you move on to word parts or morphemes. So morphology is the training we've been providing to our teachers in grades 3 to 6, our ENL and SPED teachers as well, because they focus on prefixes, suffixes, and roots. So once you can read the smaller words, we want you to be able to attack the multisyllabic words. So that training is being provided at the intermediate level. Step Up to Writing has been in the district for quite a while, but we are making sure that we have caught every teacher who comes on board. So we do a fantastic job trying to get our new teachers into Step Up, but we recognize there's some teachers that have slipped through the cracks, so we are bringing Step Up to Writing training back this year, and we're going to make sure that every teacher in every subject at every grade has had that baseline of training. We provided, we have a new reading series, so we provided training this summer for our administrators and teachers, and that will be ongoing. We did an overview of our literacy block just to make sure everybody understood what that looks like when we implement during the reading block. We have mentor teachers that go out into classrooms across the district to support our teachers up to their 3rd year working with the district as a new teacher.
We provide new teacher academy training, so they will bring in trainers from different departments to make sure that every new teacher has that baseline that they need to be successful in the classroom. This summer, we focused on differentiation for our administrators to make sure they understood what it should look like in the classroom and how to support their staff. We have instructional and math coaches in many of our buildings that likewise provide embedded support. We've been doing numbers training. It doesn't stand for anything. It's not like letters. It's just numbers. But the numbers training targets the teachers at the elementary level, because we know we have content experts, grades 7 and up. But the elementary teachers didn't necessarily get that foundation when they went through the program to become teachers. So we're making sure that they understand how to deliver math so that we can be successful in the classroom. Our Gates Effective Implementation cohort targets grade 6, because the way standards are written, K to 5, they assume you're an elementary teacher, and many programs will provide very detailed lessons. 7 to 12, they know you're a content expert, so you can fill in the gaps in a lesson plan. But grade 6 is that nebulous area where teachers are still elementary certified. They didn't necessarily have that background in math when they went through the program. But they're not, the materials that are provided for 6th grade teachers don't necessarily give you that level of detail that an elementary teacher gets. So we have targeted grade 6. The administrator at the building and the grade 6 math professional at the building goes through this training. So they have been coming on Saturdays for the past year to participate in this training. You know that we have culturally and linguistically responsive teaching training that goes on. It has been going on for many years. It started under Dr. Morell. The staff development department has kept this going because we know how important it is. We want our teachers to be cognizant of how to work with our students in the classroom. You cannot be successful teaching students if you don't understand the appropriate practices to support all kids. We have a lot of training going on at principal meetings. We pull our coaches for coaching meetings. We have support reading teacher meetings and support math teacher meetings. So these are ways that we can reach staff to make sure that they can support kids effectively in the classroom. Next slide, please. Additional support. So we have a number of interventions and acceleration programs in the district, and you've seen this list before. So Junior Great Books is an acceleration program that we provide to students who are on grade level or above to make sure that they stay on target. You know that we have Orton Gillingham for our kids who are learning how to decode. Morphology is sort of that part 2 we discussed. We have Lexia Core 5 and Power Up, which is an online intervention program for our students in literacy. Dibbles and Lexia both provide lessons that teachers can use in small group with students. So they're not online, but they're provided by those vendors. So the teachers pull kids into small group and use those lessons to intervene and accelerate. iReady provides lessons in both reading and math. So it's an assessment, but it also tells the teacher, it provides them with materials and lessons they can use to support kids in small group. We have Moby Max for both reading and math. That's an online program. We've talked about First in Math. We have Think Tank cards in mathematics to accelerate. So there's a challenge problems that teachers can provide to students. We know how important data-driven instruction is. So we have a walk-to model in literacy. So during RTI, our students walk to the appropriate teacher. Whatever level of intervention or acceleration they need, they walk to the teacher delivering that level. We also have RTI in mathematics, and we can use many of those programs, and teachers pull small groups. Teachers analyze data at grade level meetings. We use our higher order thinking questions for reading. So those are from the state assessment. We take the STEM from the state assessment and apply it to our own reading selections. So kids are practicing hearing and responding and writing to the types of items they're going to see on the state assessment. Zern is one of our online math programs for the core, but it actually provides a lot of data for teachers to use to drive instruction. So it will alert a teacher if a student is struggling with the activity that they were just completing in the classroom. So if you just did Module 1, Lesson 2, the students are working on Zern with a similarly aligned activity, and it will red flag for the teacher any student who is struggling with that particular lesson. So the teachers can intervene using that data. We provide curriculum audits in both reading and mathematics at grades 3 to 8 and for the Regents exams. So we go through the released items from those assessments. We look at how our students did, and then we compare it to how they did in the region to see where there are gaps, or perhaps where we have exceeded the region, which occasionally happens. And then we compare it to our own curriculum. Where is this skill taught in our curriculum? What time of the year is it taught? If you are off pace, how can you catch up? Because they need to know this skill prior to that state assessment. So we make sure that all of our administrators and teachers have access to those audits so they know how to plan appropriately in the classroom. Yes, there's some activities in K, but it's mainly 1 through 6. We are going to be providing practice assessments in both reading and mathematics later in the winter. And our teachers are able to use practice assessment items in Castle Learning and eDoctrina to make sure kids have seen the types of items that they're going to encounter. And don't forget, this year it's mandated by the state that our 5th graders and 8th graders take the assessment online. So we're making sure that they have access to online platforms so they'll see the type of, the type of platform that they're going to encounter and the tools that they'll have to use to be successful on that particular exam. I just also want to point out, Ms. Jesenowski and I got to see a really fantastic grade level meeting the other day at School 18. So teachers were on point. They were talking about movement between groups, so they have the classes leveled. They do multi-grade, so we were looking at grades 3 and 4 together. And they were talking about moving students into different levels of intervention, either moving them up a little bit, down a little bit, depending on the data and what it was telling the teachers. They had an informed conversation. It was really outstanding. And I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit because they talked about morphology and how they were seeing their students take what they learned during morphology lessons and apply it in other subjects. The kids were making those cross-curricular connections because they were participating in that particular program. So I'm not exaggerating, I actually did cry a little bit. It was wonderful. We have also been monitoring, so the ASLs and I will go out to schools together, we'll walk with the administrative team, we'll go into classrooms, we'll provide feedback, and plan with them for anything that needs to be updated or revised in their schedule. The special ed team has been going out specifically to monitor our Orton-Gillingham implementation to make sure that all the teachers who've been trained are implementing successfully, and then to provide any feedback that they might need to be successful. And they're also at the same time going to our autism classrooms just to make sure that those are also shaping up. The reading team has been going out and they're conducting site visits and providing professional development on the spot as needed and giving feedback. And they've also walked with our consultants for OG and pointed out rooms that are doing very well, that we might want to film. We can use it for professional development in the future. And last but not least, our CAI assistant superintendent and our math team have been going out and likewise with ASLs, meeting with principals, visiting classrooms, and providing feedback for the schools. So we're trying to be as targeted as we can, provide as much support as we can, and call out the really good things that we are seeing.
Board members, do we have any questions? Okay, Board Member Hurd.
Thank you, Kathy, Dr. Kathy Evan Brown. My question is about Zern. I've seen Zern in action. I've seen how it works in the classroom. What do we have that's comparable for 7th and 8th grade?
I apologize. I need to check. We might have Zern activities available in 7th and 8th as well. I will follow up with the math team and just confirm for you.
Okay. And are our teachers trained in Zern in those grade levels?
We did provide training last year and this year. We actually implemented for the first time over COVID. So there has been virtual training and asynchronous training periodically.
Okay, and you did mention that trainings are going on Saturdays also?
We haven't provided training for Zern specifically on Saturdays, but there is other training taking place.
Programs that's on Saturday. Okay, we talked a little more about that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Rivera.
Thank you for the presentation. It's good to see such gains being made. I have a couple questions. My first one is you gave us a really long list of interventions that we're doing. Are you assessing the interventions, and do you have a sense of which ones might be most effective? We can get the most gains for students or most effective for our students.
So I'm definitely looking at usage, and I've been looking at progress monitoring for DIBELS, so that we had the schools list all their Orton-Gillingham groups separately, so we could tell if that particular intervention was having an impact on student learning. And I would say anecdotally, that we are definitely seeing gains. But I obsessively monitor DIBELS, progress monitoring. So our students are tested, benchmark students are tested approximately once a month. So we can see how they're doing on measures that are aligned to BOI, MOI, and EOI. And then our intensive and strategic level students are tested every other week, so about every 2 weeks. So we can see classroom by classroom whether the OG implementation is having an effect on the students.
You're pretty focused on OG, which, you know my heart's there in a lot of different ways. So, so you're feeling that's one of the most leveraged, kind of the most effective implementations that we have.
Definitely. We're also implementing a more focused level of vocabulary instruction. So at K-2, we've taken read aloud passages and identified 5 vocabulary words per passage that the teachers will use during the class. They teach the students the obvious components of vocabulary, and then they have students, they try to elicit word use, so they spend some time talking about how that word could be used in the classroom and different facets of each word. We know that kids can't decode most of those academic words at K-2, but we want to build that solid understanding with them at the lower grades so that when they can decode them in 3rd, 4th, 5th, they'll already know what the word means. So we've put a big emphasis on that, and then I've talked about morphology and how that will link on, and our new reading series in grades 3 to 5 also has an emphasis on morphology. 60% of comprehension of a passage is based on your vocabulary knowledge, so we're hopeful that that will pan out as we go through the grades as well. First in math, there's actually a number of data points to suggest that the fluency will help improve kids' scores both on the iReady and state assessments. And ZERN has a number of studies that have been done to show that it's effective.
My last question for you is about what you're talking about, particularly with DIBELS. So you monitor them, I know you do, and as you know, some of our goals, right, for our superintendent have to do with DIBELS scores, particularly for students who are classified as economically disadvantaged. What relationship does the data that you presented here have with those goals? Do you see a predictive factor? Are they correlative? Does it look like that we're on track? Does it look like we're on track? Need to be more at all of those possibilities.
Assessments are difficult because they're a snapshot in time, and they're not really measuring if a student knows how to read. So DIBELS is looking to see if they know how to read. So when we look at Orton-Gillingham, we're tracking nonsense word fluency the most. So when we progress monitor, if a student is receiving Orton-Gillingham as an intervention, we're looking to see if their scores in nonsense word are improving. I'm not really looking to see if word reading fluency has improved. That's like sight words. That's not really impacted as much by the program. And ORF will eventually fall into line. So if they start to decode at the basic word level, you're going to see gains first in NWF, which is what we're looking at. And then as they become more proficient there, you'll start to see ORF being affected. DAYS is the comprehension measure in DIBELS, which we would start to see improving down the line. But until students are decoding fluently and then reading fluently, we won't see much of an impact on state assessments. So we've been trying to target kids who are in these state-tested grade levels as much as possible with Orton to ensure that they have that solid foundation in phonics so they can attack the passages that they're encountering on a state assessment.
So I follow you, and I appreciate that detailed explanation. Let's boil it down a little bit. Does it seem like we're on track to achieve the goals that we've set for the district?
So we're going to see the biggest bang in K1 and 2 right now, because that is where the teachers are using the solid core program for Orton. It's an intervention at the upper grades, so like 3 and up. So we are definitely targeting grade 3. We're making sure reading teachers are assigned to support those kids. The biggest growth you're going to see on DIBELS will definitely be K-2, and then we expect to achieve our goal at grade 3.
Okay, I look forward to hearing more. This is just a comment for the board, and then I'll be sure other people get time. I would really like for us as a board to get some more information about Orton-Gillingham and the effectiveness of different assessments, and that might be a really useful thing for us to have at the end of the year, especially when we start talking about whether or not we've achieved our goals, so we can know where to invest a little bit more. And so I just submit that for consideration of my fellow board members.
Thank you, Dr. Rivera. And as we all know, one size don't fit. It's a comprehensive school district, and we have many ethnicities. So I'm really pleased to see that Ann Bonicello has shown us many of the interventions that are necessary for both children and teachers. Board Member Scott is up next.
Thank you, Dr. Evans-Brown. Thank you for the great presentation. I am just going to add a little more context and comparison. And to Chief Botticelli's point about the ELA assessments, it is not purely an assessment of reading. It heavily involves writing. You can be absolutely fluent in reading and still struggle on this ELA assessment if writing is a deficit. And writing is a different skill that is far more complex at times than reading alone. So the Buffalo News, I don't see Ben here, but they've done a good job in reporting these results with some context. And so just for the public, I want to give additional context because historically critics have taken these numbers and used them as a weapon, especially against Buffalo Public Schools and our students, urban districts and urban students. So New York State, I'm just going to look at ELA just to be quick. New York State proficiency that they determined as proficient was 48% for the entire state. Erie County was 40%. So countywide, 40% of students were deemed proficient. Some other school districts to compare to: Lackawanna, 18%, Niagara Falls, 23%, Buffalo is 27%, as we saw, Cheektowaga, 29%, Buffalo Charter Schools, 30%, all Buffalo charters averaged together, Depew School District, 31%, Kenton School District, 32%, Springfield, 34%. So I just want to give some context, some comparison there. Charter schools, I also want to add, the board members know this, they've heard me say this multiple times, we have more than twice the amount of students with disabilities and about 4 times the amount of students that are English language learners. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you for those statistics, Board Member Scott, for clarity for everybody who's listening. Board Member Hurd.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kathy Evans-Brown. And once again, thank you for a great presentation and giving us the numbers and how this district is moving up and achieving. I do have one huge concern. It's been something that all of our surrounding suburbs, including Cleve Hill, Amherst, and Sweet Home's been dealing with, and that's with our new ELL students. That's our English language learners. That's asylum seekers, and I have complaints from teachers saying that these students are sitting in classrooms and not learning, and we don't have a way to teach them. They don't know how to work with them. Some of our asylum students come from backgrounds and countries that don't have a written language, and they're trying to adopt them by age groups and put them inside the classroom according to their age, and they're supposed to fill in and learn from that point. So is there a plan that we have that we can help work with these individuals or help educate them or bring them up to some type of standard? I know that if they take the state assessment, our numbers are going to drop also. But I'm more concerned about finding a way to try to educate them to understand the English language and being productive citizens.
So we don't have a large percentage of asylum seekers, the ones that are in the news. We have students who have come over as refugees and or who were born in America but came from families that speak other languages at the home. So we have approximately like 81 to 83 different languages spoken by our Ls. We have more languages than that spoken by kids who are not Ls necessarily. So we have very targeted instruction for those students in the classroom. If they're entering and or emerging, meaning they tested at the lowest levels of proficiency on the NISTL and or the NISIS lot, they receive standalone instruction. So they're pulled out for 36 minutes a day to receive very specific instruction from a certified ENL teacher. And then they also receive push-in services in the regular classroom, as well as the students at the other levels of English language proficiency. So some kids get a double dose. They get the standalone pull-out and they get the push-in. Some kids only get the push-in because they're a bit more proficient. But we target those students very directly. We've trained most of our ENL teachers, or in the process of training our ENL teachers in Orton-Gillingham, so they can work with the kids to decode, and morphology, so that they can work with the kids on that more advanced decoding skill. The teachers do a lot of work with vocabulary. We're currently making sure we've caught everyone for Step Up to Writing. We initially adopted Step Up to Writing to work specifically with our Ls because it's such a structured program. We know that the kids benefit from that. We expanded it when we realized how successful we were. And we actually do fairly decently on the state assessment when it comes to writing because we've had such a targeted approach to writing instruction at the school level. It slipped a bit during the pandemic, so we're trying to get back to that. But that structure that Step Up to Writing provides actually really supports our Ls as they're learning how to read and write. We provide a lot of scaffolds for those students, so we might give them sentence starters, for example, just to get them flowing with the ideas, but then they complete the sentences themselves, either verbally or in writing. But the teachers are really trained. And then we have had Ls in many buildings for so long that most of the classroom teachers are also relatively proficient at supporting those kids. We don't necessarily have people that speak their languages in every classroom. Sometimes we have a TA that might speak their language and can help translanguage, help them with that support, like providing for directions and things like that. But often there isn't someone that speaks their particular language. And to your point, some of those languages don't even have either an alphabet or any type of written form. So we work with those kids in a very, very targeted manner. And our E&L teachers have to receive 50% of their PD over the course of 5 years in E&L strategies. So we keep them up to speed on new developments. For the bilingual classrooms, we actually pull the bilingual consortium about once a quarter. So the principals come together with ASL Perez and with my team, and they work on improving the structures at the building level in the bilingual buildings. So we're really trying to be targeted with what we're able to do. E&L teachers are not as easy to find sometimes as other teachers. So occasionally we'll have a vacancy, but we're always recruiting.
So as far as the data goes, students who are new to the country are exempt from the ELA exam for their first year. So we would never have a child come to the country and be expected to sit for this assessment within that first year that they're here, which isn't a lot of time, but at least it isn't immediately like we're throwing them into a test that they have no chance of passing. And they have translators for math.
Some of these services, they might need whole home service, not only educating the child, but educating maybe the parents or caregivers that they reside with. And like I said, I heard complaints from teachers that said that they were sitting in the classroom and they didn't know how to educate them or know what to do with them. It was only several teachers, but it's about in the meantime to keep these kids encouraged. I mean, these children encouraged about education and coming to school and making them want to come to school. I think it's like more things that we need to do to work with them. Because you imagine you're coming from a different country, not understanding the language fluently or at all, but you're catching a bus now and sitting with other kids. You know, it might put them in, feel like they're uncomfortable being here and then going to a classroom in which the teacher is going ahead with classwork, but not being able to relate to them or reflect to them. So I'm just have a concern for these individuals, you know, in their futures and how we're addressing it.
So I meet with the superintendents from some of the districts where they've gotten quite a few of the asylum seeker families. Offered that because this is a district that, you know, is very diverse. And I mean, we have our own multilingual department, you know, we provide training. So I have offered to them that, you know, if they need that kind of support, that they can reach out, and we certainly will provide it.
Any other questions from board members? Comments? If not, great job.
Great job. As you can hear, we're moving in the right way. It does take a village. I know that you heard from this team, but there's so many others. Our transportation department, making sure that the children are getting to school on time. Our HR department, making sure that we have highly qualified, certified staff in front of our children. Our intergovernmental chief, making sure that we are partnering with organizations like Read to Succeed that also supported all of our community partners, our security team, making sure the kids feel safe. I could go on and on and on. You know, our ASLs that are in schools all the time, our chief of CLRI that's making sure that there are diverse materials in the schools and that she's working with teachers so that they understand our kids. It really is, you know, it takes all of us, our budget department, you know, looking at the funding and seeing where we're spending funding and making sure that we're getting the bang for the buck. All of these things really play a role in the scores that we see reflected here today. And I just want to give one shout out to our McKinney-Vento department, because I'm told that today they delivered toys and gifts and food to 1,200 children in our district who are homeless. We appreciate that. And the Goya Foundation donated food also to those families. So thank you to the McKinney-Vento team. That wraps up my report.
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Williams and her team. So may I have a motion on the minutes from a previous meeting? Terry, and second by Jen. All in favor? Thank you. Before I get into the consent agenda, I want to give Jen, Board Member Jennifer Makusi, an opportunity to about a success for one of her kids.
Good evening, everyone. The board, we're being very diligent on focusing on student outcomes and really recognizing the students who have been really doing a great job and taking advantage of everything we have to offer. And I've been given permission to acknowledge a young man from Da Vinci. He's a junior. He has a 102-point average, and he is just an amazing young man. He's got quite the name, Wanye Rakari Forrest Rhodes Carter. His mother is well known. Vanetta Rhodes is a community leader, Father Dwayne Carter, and he's hoping to become a published poet. These are the students, this is just one of so many students that we have in our district that are really excelling. And I would like to start a trend of really figuring out who these students are, making sure that they get acknowledged and give them the flowers that they deserve for taking advantage. Thank you.
All right, we love to hear those good stories. All right, so next on our, we're going to deal with our consent agenda. There's a comment on 9A, civil service by Board Member Shuda.
Chief Hills, and I'd like to recognize Ken Sawyer, who has been overseeing the engineers. Chief Hills, you don't necessarily have to come up here. I'm going to give you a compliment. I was so excited to see on the civil service list that there are 11 first class and chief engineers being hired. And I know as a former principal, for us to have our own people, a person designated specifically for your school makes all the difference. I'm really excited about the engineer who was appointed here. His name is Sean Blake, and he is a third generation engineer. His grandfather, I believe, was an engineer at School 27 when the district would apply housing for the engineers right on site. So it's great to see. I am also excited about Nathan Farley, a young man from my neighborhood who has worked his way up as being a cleaner. And so, Mr. Blake, are you back there? Thank you. I love the Blakes, the third generation. And that's all I wanted to say. This is a really exciting night for us.
Thank you, Board Member Shuda. All right, so next, 11A, item 11A, Power BI Consultant. Terrence Hurd, you had a question there?
11A.
11A.
Change. I'm sorry. At 17A.
Okay. You can sit back down, Dr. Bullock. Okay, so my colleagues are correcting me because they have my back. All right, so can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? Terry Schuter and Cindy McCutcheon. Thank you guys for having my back. Can I continue with? Okay. Yes, you can. All right. Okay, so. All right, 17C, Transportation Consulting Services. 17A? Oh, yeah, but it's not on my, all right, so 17A, Terrence?
17A, thank you. I just have a question. I was looking at the numbers here as far as workman's comp. Last year, we had a number of about 286,600. Okay, 17A. Okay. And I did receive a message back from Dr. Will Caresses about this, and it talked about a gap in service. So this year we're asking for 499,600, and it's going to be a bid that goes out this spring in 2024. So for a couple of months we're asking almost double the amount of money to cover for workman's comp. I just wanted to see, was this feasible for us to? It's paying over $275,000, close to $276,000 more for a couple of months worth of coverage, it seems.
Okay, thank you for that question, but no, so the 499 that encompasses the whole year. So you take the 286 out of it. What happens is there's a new process and procedure now through our purchase. So now we have to submit an extension. That was a board item that was already approved from 2022, and it allowed for us to have 2 extensions to it, and this is the second and final extension to the payment for the workers' comp. But there's no additional funds, there's no over expenditures. We're a large organization, so therefore we have large worker comp cases and things like that, but we're going out for bid. We're on our second and final opportunity to offer an extension. It was a late item, though, I must say, so we should have put this in September, but this, that 286 is not in addition to the 499.
Okay, so the extension isn't 499,600. The extension would be about 276,000.
That's correct.
76,000.
Right, but we have to pay for the whole year. We wanted to put it on the board properly. It's a late item, although the expenditures have already went out. It is our fault. There was some transitioning with some staff in our benefits department. No excuse, but it's a late item. It's already a contract that was approved back in 2022. This is a second extension, and then we're going out for bid again.
Okay, just one question. So you say it covers, so it's going out to bid again in the spring. So this coverage will cover whatever the bid is going to be also?
No, this is going to cover us all the way until June of 2024.
Going into, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you. 17C, Transportation Consulting Services. David Hills, board member, Heard, has a question.
Okay. I did receive a reply from Dr. Will Caresses about this also, but I did still have a concern about it. This is the second time, I believe it is stated that we have reached out to a outside entity to negotiate our transportation budget, or budget for transportation, or our transportation costs for usage.
So specifically, this consultant will develop and assist us with the RFP process. So then we create an RFP that sets us up to have a contract for the next 5 years that meets the needs of the district. It's one of the most complicated RFPs we have because of the federal regulations, because of state requirements, because of the funding calculations, and because of all the levels of complexity in the RFP. So if we have a poor foundation of a poor RFP, and we aren't solid in what we award, and we don't have everything spelled out, then it exposes us for the next 5 years of living with faults in the service that we might get as for the next contract for this next 5 years, which is going to be a significantly important 5 years for transportation.
I realize there's going to be an increase in transportation costs as everything else is rising. But wouldn't it be similar to the previous contract? Is it something that has to be bid out, or is our legal department capable of pursuing this?
So the RFP for this time around is going to have new regulations, and it is going to need to deal with some of the new state regulations for electrification. So it is going to be significantly different than the last time we did an RFP for this.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hills. And then lastly, 19G, MVP, Community-Based Organization Programming. Board Member Hurd has a comment.
Okay, I just want to say thank you to the district and for working so hard as we and our community allies work to try to help with our children and their mental health and you know, helping them actually get through each and every single day. So our community partners are very important, and I brought this up at the last couple of board meetings about help supporting these organizations that supporting us. And MVP is, I believe, is a very, very important element as we move forward. So thank you for finding a way to support MVP, and I hope that we can continue working with these types of individuals that dedicated their lives to help our children.
Okay. Take a poll on the consent agenda.
Thank you. And just prior to the roll call vote, I believe a motion to excuse a member may be appropriate prior to the roll call vote. The board president.
Oh, when we went on, I don't have the script.
Just excuse. We want to excuse Board President Cobb.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so we want to excuse Board President Board Member Sharon Cotman, Belton Cotman. She's in bereavement, and that's why I'm sitting here as the Vice President. So can we have a motion? Can we have a motion here first? Jen, second by Terry. And Mary, should I have that script about us being in executive session?
For the point of order that can be made, yes.
Okay. I don't have the script. That's not it. You want me to do that before you take a poll?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be appropriate to do the executive session first, formally come out of it.
Okay, so we went into executive session, the pending legal proceedings before the New York State Division of Human Rights with complaint numbers, but these aren't the complaint numbers, are they? Nevertheless, we went into executive session to discuss matters related to employment history and potential discipline of a specific district employee, and for the purposes of receiving legal advice. No actions taken. Thank you, guys. All right, Mary, thank you.
Thank you for the roll call vote. Board Member Hurd.
I recused myself from 11A and 19B association.
Board Member McEachen? Oh,
Yes to
sorry.
everything else.
Yes. Board Member McCosey? Dr. Rivera? Board Member Shuta? Board Member Scott? Board Member Woods? And Dr. Evans Brown?
No exception.
Thank you. The agenda does pass.
Thank you. All right, so unfinished business.
We have a resolution.
Oh, we got number 26. All right, so we have a board member resolution. Board member Larry Scott, would you mind reading it?
Thank you, Board Member, Vice President Evans Brown. So I'm introducing a resolution on the allocation of interest earned on district reserve balances. And this is a result of an agenda item. We had an external audit, and as a result of that external audit, corrective action was recommended in regards to the reserves that are held in the city account. All board members have signed on as sponsors, so I thank everyone that has signed on. I also want to lift up Board Member Woods and President Belton Cotman, who have long been vocal about this issue. So I channeled their energy when I drafted this resolution just a couple days ago. And I'm going to read it word for word because it's short, and I think there's some important information for the public to know. So whereas New York State Education Law 2580, Chapter 16 indicates that funds raised or collected by authorities in a city for school purposes or to be used by the Board of Education for any purpose authorized in this chapter or any other funds belonging to a city and received from any source whatsoever for similar purposes shall be paid into the treasury of such city and shall be credited to the Board of Education, and the funds received into such treasury shall be kept separate and distinct from any other funds received into the said treasury. Whereas a conservative projection of interest earnings on district reserves totaled over $5 million for the period of July 1, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. And whereas an external financial audit by Lumsden and McCormick recommended corrective action for the board to work with the city to determine whether an allocation can be made for earned interest on all reserves per general municipal and education law. Therefore, be it resolved, the Buffalo Board requests that the Buffalo City School District and the City of Buffalo provide the board with presentation and discussion on allocation of interest earned on district reserve balances.
Thank you, Board Member Scott. Any discussion on that resolution? We don't have to vote on that, do we? Vote? Okay, so Mary?
How do you vote? Board Member Hurd?
Fully agree.
Board Member McEachen? Yes. Board Member McCosey? Yes. Dr. Rivera? Yes. Board Member Shuta? Board Member Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Woods?
Certainly.
And Dr. Evans Brown?
Yes.
And the resolution passes.
Okay, thank you. So we approved the consent agenda. And so do we have any committee reports? Yeah, you have an update at all for Council of Great City Schools?
Yeah, you guys all hear me because I don't have a microphone.
Here. There you go. Cindy.
Thank you.
So we did host a board mini retreat last week on December 13th, and we had Leslie Grant, who we have seen at various points pop up on the screen, actually come in and meet with us in person. We did a little bit of a reset and a recap of what we've accomplished thus far, and what we have to look forward to as we move into the new year. This all falls within the Council of Great City Schools student outcome focused governance model framework that we have adopted as a board and a district and are embarking on. This is a long journey and it is a little bit slow moving, but everything is intentional and meaningful as we continue to move through this process. I think we all felt refreshed, recharged, and excited for what 2024 has in store for us. And we will be moving into a space of hosting some community listening sessions sponsored by board members. So we will be coming out. We are going to go down this path of planning, which has not happened yet, but we will be moving into that space in January of the planning process with the hope of hosting some sessions by the end of the first quarter. So that's pretty exciting. The idea behind that is that the school boards exist to represent the vision and values of the community. So as we hear themes that emerge through these listening sessions, we will be able to frame goals moving forward on a broader scale that are the superintendent's goals. She will in turn deliver interim goals, and we will start to see a lot of the presentations and the movement happening in board meetings center around this space. So we're pretty excited about moving and embarking on this journey. Additionally, we will be hosting a book club, and I use that term very loosely, but we will have the author of Great on Their Behalf, I believe is the name of the book. I don't have it written down, so I had to remember. A.J. Crable joining us, and we will have some of our parent leaders and community stakeholders that are very vocal, learning about the process we're going through so that we can not only be transparent, but we can support one another and understand what our roles look like, how they're going to evolve and move. So more information will be coming out for that, and that will also be in the new year. And we have several board members, I believe there are 4 of us, that are part of a cohort, year-long cohort that will start in January 2024, and will be a little bit rigorous, but it's going to give us a deep dive into this framework and understanding so that we can be ambassadors for this framework on a deeper level. So I look forward to that and all of the homework that we'll be getting as we go through this process, but we're very excited to do that and come together as a board. So lots to come in January, and I think that's it.
Thank you. That was very detailed, Cindy. Any other committee reports? Okay, so unfinished business, pretty much what Cindy wrapped up. Lastly, the bereavement announcement will be done by Terry Schutter. New business? Oh, we have any new business first? Yes. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion for the board to give the board permission to have access to the 53rd Annual Legislative Caucus in New York. New York is the Association of Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislators.
Oh, okay. When is?
We went to this past several years. We've been going this February 16th, 17th, and 18th.
So do we need to vote on that?
Yes.
Okay. Mary?
I made the motion, somebody had to second it.
Dr. Evans Brown. Oh, you were looking for a second?
Shoot a second. Okay, this is an opportunity for board members to participate in the conference for 3 days, February 15th.
16, 17.
Okay, and Terrence, you went before, and other people at this table, have you gone at all? So you want to briefly tell us about?
It's a time where we had the opportunity as from an educational standpoint to talk to our senators and assembly leaders in Albany about what's going on in Buffalo. All people across the state, they're talking about their cities, all the way from Yonkers, New York City, to Mount Vernon, all the way Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo. District and our district goals.
Board member Scott?
So, thank you, Vice President Evans. So, board members know that I've long had an issue with us kind of throwing an item on at the last minute without it publicly being posted. And after our retreat, we were kind of going through our policies and our bylaws, and I went through our bylaws shortly after that, and it indicates that we have a requirement to, I think it's at least 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, anything that we're taking action on, and especially spending money on, needs to be publicly posted. I completely support this event, but as far as following our process and being accountable, I'm wondering if it's something that, A, we can have posted for January, B, also open it up to all board members and give, so that anybody that's interested can attend, and also give us and the public an understanding of the cost that's involved for us to attend. So if it's in February, would we have the opportunity to move on this in January?
Discussion?
Discussion. I can answer that. I don't believe so. I believe that there are tickets that's being sold for the events, and that we have to move in advance. This is something that how we have done other things is bring under new business, so that it doesn't have to be bought in under the same criteria. This is new business. This is not old business. But all board members has the opportunity to go if they want to.
To all board members, it's important that we could vote on it as a one-time exception with the understanding in the future as a group that we notice in the future if we're going to ask that be acceptable to my fellow board members.
It's online now, but the link hasn't opened up for it yet. And I have conversed with Lisa Kane about it. So it's been in discussion for a while now, but I haven't had the opportunity. The link hasn't opened up for those values.
And this might be a question for Chief Barnes or Chief Caressis. We have a budget set aside for the board to attend events. And do we have available, because we know that we're approaching a tough budget year. And so is it budgeted for?
Yes, there's no danger of going over budget with this expense. And the other thing I might say, so that everything is more consistent with the direction that you're going into, for next year's budget, we're going to build into the budget the potential approval for all of the known conferences that the board attends. And then this way you'll vote them in the May budget, and everyone will be free to go to the conferences that are approved. The only time you'd have to bring it to the table again is if there's something that's different, that's new, that was unforeseen at the time of the budget. But the vast majority of the conferences you ordinarily attend will be pre-approved in the regular budget. That'll be the first time we do that this year.
Thank you. I thought we did that before, though. I remember maybe a couple of years ago that we just voted on and I outlined what they were.
Well, the amount is always approved up front, but not the line-by-line
Okay.
Anticipated cost for each conference, and we'll put that in the budget this year.
I don't think we've done much training. I'm not worried about that we don't have some funds available.
Right, absolutely.
Just note that this event is for us to go out lobby for monies for our district, our programs, and our community. So the purpose of it is to gain and work with our constituents across the states about the values of Buffalo and what we place in our community and our families.
Yeah, I don't hear not supporting the Black Puerto Rican Conference. I think it's just logistically, when you talk about new business, it's something that probably should have been, like Larry said, posted. But nevertheless, where are we now? What are we doing?
You made a motion for an exception.
So we're going to make the exception?
So I'd like to amend the original motion to include as an exception to our bylaws to move this to a vote. Reasonable?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Council?
So now the vote on the underlying motion that was amended. Board Member Hurd?
Yes.
Board Member McKecken? Yes. Board Member Makosi?
Yes.
Dr. Rivera?
Yes.
Board Member Shuda? Yes. Board Member Scott?
Yes.
Board Member Woods?
Yes.
And Dr. Evans-Brown? Yes. And the motion passes.
Thank you for that. Ooh, y'all tough. All right, so. Business. Okay, if not, could we all stand as board members should read our bereavements?
The bereavements for December 20th, 2023 are as follows. November 13th, Sharon Mingo Alexander, a retired attendance teacher and former school counselor. November 14th, Norman E. Foster, father of Patrick Foster, a social studies teacher at School 198. November 18th, Benjamin Vaccaro, father of Anthony Vaccaro, a family engagement supervisor. In a special way, November 19th, Paul Woods, the father of our Central District Board member Paulette Woods. November 27th, the notorious Veronica Kozo, a beloved teacher assistant for just under 40 years and transportation coordinator at School 27. November 29th, William Sikorsky, a retired director of building repairs. December 3rd, Rosemarie Feltisco, mother of Joan Fletcher, a teacher aide at School 69, grandma to Christopher Feltisco, a teacher at School 305, great-grandma to Caitlin Fletcher of School 195, and Benjamin and Camilla Feltisco at School 81, and Rosemary was my mom's best friend. December 4th, Llewellyn McClaney, a former teacher aide and sister of Mary D. McClaney, former teacher at School 40, aunt of Nichelle Jackson, the account clerk typist at 355. In a special way, Floyd Smith, a veteran, a Bethlehem steelworker, and the beloved partner of 28 years to board president and Ferry District Representative Sharon Beltman-Cotman. December 15th, Sandra Murphy, mother-in-law of Karen Murphy, a teacher at school 355. And we're sending special thoughts to all their families during this difficult time of the year.
Okay. Maybe have a moment of silence. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.